The broadcast is now starting. All attendees are in listen-only mode.
Right, I think we are live. All right, I believe we're live. I'm going to take that. Can you guys hear me? Just a message on the chat would be great. Okay, lovely. Firstly, welcome to this session where we're going to talk about key pointers to keep in mind while applying to top business schools around the world. My name is Paras Fatnani. I'm the Regional Director for QS for UK, India, and Middle East. Today, we're just going to go through certain pointers that will help you in your application process, in not just the application process, but more about the journey that you need to take from thinking about an MBA to trying to get into one, and then finishing one and seeing your career post that. This is purely out of my experience of working in this industry for the last 5.5 years. It is unsolicited, but it is with opinions from a lot of schools and a lot of students that I've formed the top tips that you need to keep in mind. So firstly, when you do look at starting a session, when you do look at going to business school, what are the key things you need to keep in mind? Most important thing is why are you thinking? Or you need to take to while having to decide on what the next career step is. Now, business school is going to give you that leap step up, but also it's going to give you that chance to decide on, is it a career move for me? Is it a step up in the ladder in the same company? Or am I trying to do my own business? So think about, why have you chosen to go to business school? The other thing is, what do you want to do after you graduate? And both these questions, the answers will have to be the same. Be it having to go to business school for learning entrepreneurship or accelerating your journey into entrepreneurship, or be it to excel in your career. Apologies, what I'm going to also mention now is we're going to divide the session into two parts, wherein initially we will talk about the tips that I'm going through, but also secondary, we'll give you a chance to ask questions and tell us more about what you would like to learn more on. Okay, continuing to point 2, identifying the school is going to be a large question. Why are you interested in a certain school? Is it the geography of the school? Is it the reputation? Is it the funding element that questions you a little bit more? Is it the tuition fees? Certain other things you need to keep in mind are also what are the recruitments post-graduation from that university? What are the internship opportunities? What are the alternative solutions that you need to look at when you finish the course? So identifying your business school also helps you tailor out the reasons of what you want to achieve post you finish school. So at this stage, I'm going to ask you guys a quick question, and I'm trying to get into the polls here. I'd like to ask you guys, where are you keen to looking at studying in? Is it going to be towards North America? Is it going to be towards, which is US and Canada? Is it going to be towards Australasia? Is it going to be towards Europe? Is it going to be continuing to study in India? Or is it something that we've not touched on here? We're going to open the poll in a couple of seconds. We'll keep this poll on for about 10 minutes for you to have a look and decide on what your journey from there is. And we'll come back to this question in a while. But let's just think about geography being an important factor. Some people might turn around and say weather is important. Ideally, weather does play a critical role in your psychological thinking. Being in the UK in an atmosphere that suits you or not, versus being in India versus being in an atmosphere that suits you or not, it's a decision you need to take. You need to look at a number of factors that you need to keep in mind with regards to geography. When it comes to campus recruitments, look at the companies that are coming to campus. Are those from the sectors that you're looking to get recruited in? There's an important factor to think about in these areas. There's a recent stat that came up, which was about where are students from India highly being recruited, and Asia was an important and upcoming destination. So is Asia a destination you need to consider? Yes, but it depends on your career goals. So think about what important element do you want to take as a key factor there. We touched about post-study opportunities in terms of work, but have a well thought out strategy. It is easy to think that I want to do an MBA. Coming from an Indian background, an MBA is more so a title that we go after rather than the learning we go on. So a key suggestion here would be to look at what is your strategy behind doing an MBA? Where do you think it's going to take you? Be prepared to explain why you're leaving your job. So an area of your application process will ask you about reasons of applying to that course or to that school. And leaving a job becomes an important element if you've been working for 3, 4, 5 years. Someone with 2 years of experience is probably looking at a different level of program. So I would personally suggest to look at a 2-year program versus a 1-year program. And are you applying directly after your undergrad? And if so, is the program duration something you need to keep in mind? Personally, I would suggest that for someone who's looking at it with less number of work experience, you need more holistic learning. And in that situation, what you've got to think about is to do with, am I going to get an internship opportunity midway through in the course? Am I spending enough time learning the fundamentals of the subjects that I'm going to focus on going ahead? Is it actually giving me enough time to network with the people I'm studying with? Whereas on a 1-year program, what you're aiming at is this giving me the acceleration that I want to get in my career? Is this the industry that I want to move into? So there are various factors you need to keep in mind when it comes to the application and with relation to your opportunities after, connecting them to what you're doing currently. Now, a part of this journey is also your resume. How I like to call it is prepare your MBA resume. It is different from applying for a job. It is going to have, while it may have similar questions to a certain extent, think about what are you bringing to a table, and in some regard it's probably similar, and we'll point out both sides. Let's think about what is similar to a job interview, and then we'll touch on what is different. What is similar to a job interview is if you look at the reasons that you're going to do this, they might vary, but the fact that this is a progression in your life in either an academic field or in a career element, they will at the end of the day come back to the same point. So a resume, the questions that you want to answer from your resume, that you want the interviewer to get from the resume, probably to a large extent remain the same. But what differs is what your motive behind this resume is. Think about the experiences that contribute to your skill. So for instance, for a job interview, you want to tell them more about your work-related skills, that effort into what you want to do next and why you're applying for that job. From an MBA perspective, what you want to tell them is how are you different to 100,000 other Indian candidates that are applying for the same job. Talk about your experience in detail, and it's not about only the company you worked at, but it's the kind of work you've done. It's the kind of experience you've gained out of that. My point 5 here is going to be, in that journey of an application, you've also got exams to take. Now these exams are critical to certain levels of grades that you want to showcase to the school in your application. So for example, a school might have a base criteria of 650 GMAT, whereas another school might have a base criteria of 700 GMAT. So think about the schools that you're going to, think about the scores that you can achieve, but don't take the test unprepared. That's going to make a difference in what you look at. The targeting of the schools in many cases will depend on your GMAT scores. While there is a holistic approach to you being able to fundamentally showcase yourself through your other skills, including your CV, including your interview, but your GMAT score is important. How important it is, it really depends on each school. There is no answer of the weightage being equal in each and every application in each and every school. What the school is looking for is a holistic answer to who that person is and what are they going to do after they have been to this course. While preparing for your GMAT, give enough time. Look at study groups and options that the test preps have to give you. So ideally, you want to spend about, so GMAT, one of the exam makers of the exam maker of the GMAT exam, and ETS that brings out the GRE exam. The stats in standard say that you need to give approximately 30 to 45 days in preparation, in complete dedication, to be able to look at a score increase from your diagnostic that you've done. Take diagnostic tests. That would be a suggestion from my end. Try and see where you currently stand, and then aim at where you want to be, and set your goals accordingly. So a part of that is, a key element is not going unprepared. Look at which exams are taken by which schools for which courses. Take the right exams. Growingly, the GRE is getting accepted at a lot of business schools as well for your MBA applications. However, it might not be all. So consider and go through the information that the school gives to make sure that you're taking the right test. My next tip here is going to be about being certain. Be certain about what is right for you. There are going to be a lot of options. There are going to be a lot of schools offering those options to you, but pick the right one for you. And which is the right one for you? I think that's a journey you need to go on. Picking subjects, picking geography, picking the career ambitions that you have after that, and looking at recruitment options available. So these would be 4 key elements that I would suggest to keep in mind while deciding your journey, your journey to the business school that you want to study at. Also, in that element of being certain, it's important to be abreast with newer developments in the industry. So for example, if there are newer programs coming up, if there are collaborations between different B schools helping you get an internet. So for example, I'm gonna tell you guys about a school that offers an international or offers a degree which is partially in India, partially in North America, or you can also consider a school that's based in India offering you a British degree. Now the decision elements, I won't name the schools for certain reasons, but there are a number of schools that you can look at that offer you collaborative programs across different countries. The benefit of this, you might end up, if you look at an international program being offered in India, the largest element of consideration is cost. If you do decide to go out, the factor that you would focus more on would depend around your experience of being in an international environment. The degree is one thing, the environment is the other thing. So keep both in mind. Set up scholarship alerts. You know, we will look at an element to talk about funding, but think about, are you ready with finances from personal reasons, personal sources? Are you going to look at financing student loans, or are you going to aim at scholarships? And if you are, then be ready to put effort into that search. Applying for a scholarship or searching for a scholarship will take you as much time as applying to business school. So while that's not your primary question to keep in mind, it's something that you put back-end work into to make sure that you're on the right track. My next suggestion is going to make sure is going to be about the application and making sure that you've put your best foot ahead. Now, many a times when I speak to admission directors at various schools, one of the key elements that they talk about is the fact that the student hasn't put enough effort in making sure that their application is proofread. You know, you might want to apply to 3 schools together, but that doesn't mean the school name has to be the same. Put enough effort to change the school name, to change the motivation of why you want to go to each school. Make the application personal. You are going to that school, or you're applying for that school for a reason. Make sure that reason is clear. Make sure your intent to study at that particular school is clear to the school and not, you know, and is not seen as, I wanted to apply to 5 schools, I didn't take the effort to turn my application into serious work that helped me focus each school separately and showcase yourself in the wrong format. So be very careful about what the first impression that you put out there. Get your family, get your friends, get advisors to proofread for you. Proofreading is always going to help support your application on where you want to see it. You might miss out on something on first eye, but when someone else has looked at it, you've got a second opinion. I'm going to go on to my next element to keep in mind. Another factor that people don't probably give enough importance to is the admissions interview. Now, the interview is a chance that you've got after going through the first shortlist. So the first shortlist will help you think about will help you see that you are in that league that has gone through the first barrier. The fact that you've got to the stage of getting an MBA interview, you're at the next level where the school is ready to invest more time in you to see, are you ready for that school? So make sure you take that opportunity. Be accessible on email so that the schools, when they do get in touch for an agreed time, you are available and you're accessible. The environment in which you take that interview is as important, be it the location, be it your internet connection, but also, think about your dressing. Are you dressed ready to speak to an admissions director? Most times when it's a remote interview, you're going to be doing it via Skype or an online platform where they're going to speak to you one-on-one. Think about how you're dressed. Have the tie, have a suit. Down under that, you might be wearing shorts. No one's seeing that. Don't stand up, obviously, but make sure that you're giving the right impression about being serious. Don't have 100 things behind you in your background. Keep it clean. Show that you're mess-free. And above all, be confident. Be confident of who you are, what you want to achieve, what you bring to the table, and what are you going to take away from it. My next tip is going to be, you've thought about which school, so let's go on this journey, right? You've thought about the school you want to go to. You've made effort into that search that will take you there. You've taken, or you're thinking of taking the GMAT or preparing for the GMAT or GRE when you're talking about business school and MBAs. You've done your background. You're now somewhere ready to the next level. Maybe after you've made the application or before you've made the application, or after you've taken the interview at either of these levels, you see a chance that the admissions director or the admissions team from the school that you aspire to go to, or you're going to, or you've applied to, are coming to your city. Take that chance and make sure you meet them, because that impression that you cast on them is going to help in your final decision. Till the time you don't have that final confirmed offer letter, you are still in that dilemma of where are you in that process. So take that time, take that effort, go see them, write to them saying that I've seen that you're coming to my city. Be aware of things happening around you. And at that stage, like I mentioned, you might be at a different stage while these people are visiting you. So you might either be at application stage, search stage, or at the stage where you've got the admit, and now you've got a conditional offer. Now you're looking at how you're closing on things. So you can speak to them about a number of things, starting from the exams that you need to take, or if you've taken other scores enough. You can talk about the life in the country that you're going to be studying in, if you have any doubts around that. You can talk about the work opportunities around there, but don't ask about scholarships at that level. Make sure you've done your research on scholarships that are available from that school. However, if you have a specific doubt, that's good to clarify. But a school, if they're going to give you time to speak about something, the first end goal is not going to be scholarships. It's going to be making sure that, are you ready for business school? So go in that direction. Make sure that, depending on the stage again that you're in, you're taking advice from people who've either been there or have been selected at that school. These are two peer groups that have either experienced it or have banked on it enough to make sure to say that, yes, I am going to the school. Spend some time with them. Understand where they are at in their journey now. How did going to that school help them? If you are interested in studying in the US, we've got an event. We've got a series of the World MBA Tour events coming to India in first week of August. Log on to topmba.com/Credella and view them. Keep a track of the schools that are coming. If you're not interested in the US, we've got other events coming in December. The important thing is to see the chance of meeting face to face with these admission directors or admission officers that are coming to you. My next point is, think big. Think about the experience. Think about where is it taking you. There are a number of things you will do in this process. You will enhance your career opportunities. You look at new prospects. You look at new avenues that you haven't explored in terms of industries as well. That can happen. But one thing I take away from when I personally pursued my master's program, which was in the UK, what I took back the most, and what I'm extremely glad about today, is the people. The network that you build is an extension of you. Most of the times now when I travel and I'm speaking, I am with a colleague of mine hypothetically in Peru. I have a classmate of mine who came from Peru, who studied with me, and I've made sure that I've caught up with him again. So your network is now global. Explore it. Make sure that it's not just for jobs. You want to be seen as a genuine person, and be that person. Don't just let your goals overshadow who you are. Explore new countries, explore cultures. You will be studying in a multicultural environment, be it within India or be it outside. The diversity is key to the school. So be it domestic diversity or be it international diversity, make the most of that. Today all of us are mobile. We're moving. We're in a generation where people are moving countries every other month. The mobility rates are at the highest possible that have been for the longest time. But above all, going back to the point of being yourself, also enjoy yourself. Take that time to be, things are going to be hectic. Things are going to be very, very tight in terms of the amount of time you have to take to take personal trips, if that is the case. The fact that if you do decide to go to Europe to study, you've got all of Europe to explore. You've got certain new languages to learn. Maybe language was a hobby of yours. Maybe that is something you explore further. But give yourself that chance. Don't get limited. But also at the same time, don't underestimate your course. So keep that balance. Keep yourself in loop of where you want to be and what you want to achieve. With that, I have sort of come to a conclusion of the points that I have in mind. We're very well on time. So the division of time that we'd originally made, which I hope you've seen before the webinar started, was the 30 minutes was about key points to keep in mind in your journey. But now I would be happy for us to take questions for the next 30 minutes. I'm happy to answer any question that I can in my remit, most of which I should have answers to. But if not, we will be able to come back to you to say this is something we'll help you further on in due time. So if I can request you guys to ask any questions you have now. We've got about 30 minutes to do that, and you can give me some feedback as well. So we're over to the crowd. So the first question that I have is, which country is best for doing an MBA? And this comes from Mahesh Tiwari. Mahesh, I would say, some of the factors that I've touched on earlier today. The fact that you got to look at what your objective is. If you want to help yourself in the career goal that you want to take that step towards the country that will give you that opportunity to work there after your MBA. Think about, are you looking at a specialization course? If that specialization course is the top courses for those are in, hypothetically, you want to do entrepreneurship, and the US is key on entrepreneurship, and I'm sure every region will have entrepreneurship courses, but if there are certain schools that help you towards that, look at those. understand the criteria of your subject choice will influence the country that you pick. I hope I've been able to articulate that well enough for you. But, you know, factors to keep in mind while choosing the best country is very independent of you. You know, it's about what your choice takes you and where you want to see your future go as well. Also, the weather is something to keep in mind, which I touched on earlier. So I hope that answers your query, Mahesh. The next question I'm going to take is from Prathamesh, who's asking, do Indian B schools provide scholarships? The clear answer, if you want it in one word, is yes. The number of scholarships available are of very high magnitude. You got to be, it's very similar to an international MBA. You got to be able to demonstrate the fact that why should you get that scholarship. There are probably, I would say, lesser number of trusts or government bodies offering scholarships for MBAs within India. But if you look at the schools themselves, when I spoke about diversity earlier, the Indian schools also want diversity, and that might be domestic diversity in terms of regions. Explore that. The other thing I would suggest in terms of funding to keep in mind will be, if you are working, think about, does your employer have enough benefit to sponsoring you to do an MBA? You know, your source of funding might not be one, but might be multiple. So I hope that answers that question. But also I'll add to this, what QS offers, which might be of help for you, is for all attendees of the World MBA Tour and the World Grad School Tour events, you have access to scholarships worth $1.7 million, which you can find on topmba.com/scholarships. And the leadership, the QS scholarships are applicable to any school anywhere in the world. There would be many, however, there which are tied to certain schools. But have a look. Okay, questions are flooding in, so I'm going to try and answer more that I can. The next question is from Manisha, who's asking, can a student apply before taking a GMAT? Yes, Manisha, an applicant can apply before taking the GMAT. However, what you would get back is a conditional offer asking you to score to give a certain GMAT score. My suggestion would be that if time permits, give your GMAT and submit a holistic application, because then if your GMAT score is slightly lower, you've got the school to be able to look at the rest of your application alongside at the same time. That will help them quantify the importance of the GMAT versus either your work experience, either your extracurricular that you've had from before time. So there are multiple things that they will be able to look at. My next question that I'm going to look at, and I hope that does justice to your question, Manisha. The next question that's out there is about costs for taking the GMAT and GRE, which is Pradeep, I'm going to lie if I tell you that I know the exam, but I'm sure if you go to if you Google it on the ETS, or if you Google it or you go to the ETS website, they will be able to help you on that. The next question is from Mohit, who's asking, will an executive MBA help my career, or will a full-time MBA do that? So Mohit, again, this is a very personal question based on where in your journey are you. So for example, an executive MBA is very well suited for a candidate that's looking at furthering his career in the same company or in the same industry, in the same job role. But the minute you're looking at a career shift, which currently I'm unable to say, but if you are looking at a career shift, or if you're looking at a a shift in profile altogether, which does not relate to your current role, then maybe a full-time MBA is a better choice. The executive MBA helps you, go that one level up, whereas the full-time MBA will help you and more focused. The executive MBA will give you lesser time with the network that you want to spend on, but through a longer duration. It's the effort. So I hope that sort of gives you some direction to consider either the full-time or the executive MBA. Questions are pouring in, and I am being conscious of time. But Mohit, I hope that gives you some support element there. The next question I'm going to look at is most of the universities the question comes from Yash. He says most of the universities in the US require work experience. Can a student without any work experience get admission? Yash, my answer to you would be that don't think about what the school wants. Think about what are you gaining from going to that business school. Think about what are you gaining from the network of people studying at that business school. Because if the average age of most business school MBA students today is 27 plus, which is a minimum of 3 years of experience or more, you want to be careful to know that are you going to learn something from that group? Do you have something in you to bring to the table that can contribute to that class? And these are questions you can answer. They're very factual. What I would suggest is if you don't have any work experience, either look at, the options you would have, in my opinion, would be either a domestic MBA, because there are still a large number of local schools here that would offer you an MBA, an admission without work experience, or look at a specialized master's program. A master's program will give you that tailored experience in the subject area that you're looking to progress in, which can help you find your further career prospects. But in an MBA, my personal suggestion would be at least give yourself 2 years to understand what business is, to actually be in business in one form or another, to then decide on what your next step is. And I hope that helps, Yash. The next question comes from Abraham, and he's asking, what is a good GMAT score for applying to B schools? So, Abraham, there is no right or wrong answer to this. Each school, depending on the tier that they fall in, so either if you're aiming at a top tier school, for example, if you're aiming at INSEAD, if you're aiming at IE, you're aiming at the top 200 schools, including ISB, you're looking at a very high GMAT score. You're looking at the range between, based on your profile again, between 675 upwards, between 675 and 720, 730, and in some cases between 775 as well. Again, like I said, a lot depends on your profile to judge what the best GMAT score applicable to that school is. You might be a 675 candidate, whereas the minimum score that the school looks at is 700, but your work experience and your leadership, as well as your extracurricular, outlays the GMAT score. So the school will be happy to look at a holistic situation where they can help you progress in the next step that you can take. So the answer is there is no one good score. Obviously, a 350 is not a good score, but anything over 600, I would say, or even 580, depending on the tier of school that you're applying to and what your objectives are, it might get you through. The next question I see is from Manisha again, who's asking, what is the typical student profile at INSEAD? So from my understanding and the work that I've done with INSEAD over the last couple of years, the average profile, the average candidate has a minimum of 5 years of work experience, is coming from a managerial role and is with a high GMAT score. Now, obviously, there are exceptions. There have been candidates that I personally know of who are friends of mine who went to INSEAD on a very high GMAT score with 4 or 3.5 years of work experience. But there has to be a quantifying element. The student population is very diverse. They've got over 100 nationalities. I'm pretty certain about that. I don't have the exact number of countries that they get students from, but I'm pretty sure that's over 100 nationalities sitting there. So the pool is very diverse. If that helps you answer that question. The next question I have is from Mahesh again, who says, I'm a commerce graduate with 3 years of experience in sales. What specialization shall I consider for an MBA? Which country and university will be better at it? So, Mahesh, this is a very personal question, I would say. I do understand your profile better now than the previous question that I answered for you. Depending on the ambition that you have, let's say for now I'm going to give you 2 scenarios. One, that you want to continue working in sales, and 2, that you want to move towards starting your own business. So if you want to continue working in the sales and marketing field, what country should you consider? You've got all the schools helping you in that space. So then you have to look at factors such as cost. You will have to look at factors such as course duration. Are you looking at a 1 year or a 2 year? With 3 years of experience, you could suit both a 1 year or a 2 year. Now that, like I said, goes back into a little bit more detailing into your profile to see what suits you best. Which university would suit you best is a very ambiguous question. A lot would depend on which country you choose, and the country would depend on what your further ambition is. But like I said, you've got a typical profile. That profile is probably of 60% of candidates, or probably about 50 at least, who are looking at doing MBA largely from India, other than you look at your IT graduates and your engineers. But the commerce graduates, the next step is generally an MBA. So the countries I would suggest, if you wanted to look at sort of working there for a certain amount of time after you've graduated, would include Canada, would include Australia. Australia would depend on the course duration, and then how long a visa do you get there. But if your ambition is to turn around and say, well, given the current circumstances, if your ambition is to turn around and say, I'm going to come back and I want to be an entrepreneur, but I want to go to a school that sort of helps me with more practical learning that I feel more suited to, or the subjects that I've looked at in this business school suit me better, then you can consider the UK as well. Or you might turn around and say, well, given the profile and cost is a factor for me, I might choose to study in India, wherein I get a high qualified degree. It could be from any school, across the country. You've got a lot of schools from the West. You've got a lot of schools in the South. You've got a lot of top schools in the North. So the options are going to be open to you, and I think that's a very personal decision that you need to take from there. So the next question is about B schools in India. Which are the best B schools in India? Now, typically answering based on profile and based on rankings and elements that you can consider, I would say you would look at IIM Ahmedabad, IIM Bangalore, a few other IIMs in that same league. You would look at ISB, you would look at SP Jain, Institute of Management and Research. But also, you've got a lot of options there. You've got a lot of upcoming schools, such as, and again, depends on which part of the country you're in and what your specialization is. You've got Universal Business School, you've got Alliance University Business School, you've got Amity International Business School. You've got Great Lakes. You've got a wide diaspora of schools present. How do you decide what's the best business school? I think you've got to look at the subjects that you want to study ahead. I think you've got to look at the placements that you have from those schools going ahead. And further on, does that match your philosophy? Does that school look at a similar mind frame or your progression in the same way as you look at your progression? You've got schools in the south such as Myra. They would also be an option to consider. So I wouldn't define top schools just based on rankings. I would look deeper into that to further specializations in areas of work. The next question I have is about what is the average placement one gets after completing an MBA from a top school? So most, I mean, I'm gonna try and take the question in two parts, hoping that I understand the question well. So the placement rate that most of these top B schools would have would be closer to potentially 98, 99, 100%. But a lot depends on you. You know, you are only good as you portray yourself to be, and the school can only then put that element of your profile ahead to employers. So it's not just about how a school places you, but what opportunities do you take from the school while you're at the MBA, right? There will be a lot of sessions that you will have with alums. There will be a lot of sessions where you will network with corporates. Can you find your own job? The answer is yes. You're coming from a top school. You're positioned in such a way that you showcase yourself to be worthy enough to be at that company. So I think in that sense, while the placement rates are high, your element of personalization of your personality plays a big role in what that you. So come work on your time. Again, the answer can be very long. What I would suggest is each university, each business school will be able to give you data towards placement rates and the average salary that you look at. The next question that I'm going to try and take is why students as well as global MBA prefer 3 years rather than for a full time. Sorry, I'm trying to understand this question better, which is for Mohit again. Why students prefer global MBA 3 years rather than a full-time MBA, which is 2 years. So I think you meant 1 year versus 2 years. In my knowledge, there aren't any 3 years MBA now. Most MBAs would be a year, 18 months, or 2 years. So in that context, going back to what we've spoken about earlier, aggressive growth in your current role. Are you looking at a change in career, in profession, or are you looking at a different industry that you want to work in? Each of different perspective towards what your goal at the end of the day is going to be like. It would be wrong of me to say a lot depends on your profile. The next question is about SPJ in Dubai, Rochester Institute of Technology, University of Birmingham. Can you suggest which one placement? So I'm going to be very honest here. I am not a consultant. Each school separately. I think I would personally stay away from that element. But what I would say is each of which might help you decide which is the right element. So SPGen would have campuses across the world, try campus arrangements. Birmingham might also have certain, Birmingham and Rochester might have certain advantages. When you look at the diversity of your class, might be slightly higher. There will be various factors, and this question is again from Mahesh. So Mahesh, there will be various factors to keep in mind. So I would suggest meet those schools face to face. I can definitely tell you 2 out of 3 will be at the fairs that we're holding in December, first week of December. So you can meet SPGen and you will meet Birmingham and most probably Rochester there as well. So take time out, come and see them, and you will be able to decide for yourself. But there will be factors that you need to look at, benefits from each element that you can learn on. The next question is about background. So I don't have a business background. Will it impact my chances of admission? The answer is no. Each school looks at diversity, and that diversity does not clearly form in terms of geography, but also in terms of experience and backgrounds. So your classroom might be filled with people from different professional backgrounds. You might have an architect, you might have an entrepreneur, you might have a painter, you might have, and that's a strange one which I encountered recently, but there was a painter who went to business school to see what his skills could further take him. So I don't think there is any impact on that. So I think you should be confident that you will have the freedom to choose what you like. Another question comes in about which is, after completing graduation, when should one plan his MBA? Should take a gap from work experience or immediately? My personal recommendation is to give it at least 2 years before you do an MBA. You will see what the work life has to offer for you, and then an MBA will help you get that next step ahead. There's a question from Rahul who's asking, it might financially good but hard. So his question is relevant in a large way. Is how do you find out if it might be a stupid question if the student is not financially good? So how to find out the fake uni or the college not affiliated with government body or educational society? So Rahul, the answer is pretty easy here. You got to look at accreditations. So different schools have taken different accreditations. There are various global bodies like the ANBA, you've got in India, you've got AICTE. You've got various elements that you need to consider, which will give you factual answers if the university is accredited and it's an official university or not. And I think there is no one simple link where you can find these schools, but in your search, I think start your journey with exploring schools through the rankings. Maybe that might be a good start point. Find out the subject area that you want to look at, and then decide on different schools. If it's domestically, if it's internationally, you'll be able to look at different areas there as well. The next question I have is, spending a huge chunk of money for MBA abroad, one should stay abroad or for his job or return to India. Personally, I think a lot is dictated by circumstances that you have around you. So you might want to stay, but the country's visa regulations do not allow that. Or you might not want to stay because you have a very good job back here that helps you understand the ROI of your MBA, which is again worthwhile exploring that avenue that you've gone down your MBA and come back to either the same company or the same country where you see larger growth potential for the industry that you're in. I would think that sort of answers the question pretty well there. I'm going to look at if there are any other questions I've missed out in this time, and if I have, and if you do have any questions, please post them now, and I'll try and take them. We've got just a couple of minutes left now, so about 5 minutes to go. So there's another question about minimum qualifying GPA. I think you've got to look at different countries and different formats that you have. So there is, again, like a GMAT score, that I can't say X GMAT score is the best GMAT score. I mean, ideally, I would tell you 795 is the best score to have in GMAT to be able to get in every school. But is that a realistic answer? Probably not. So I would say, it really depends on the school and the country, but you'll have to assess this individually. So I hope that answers the question about minimum qualifying GPAs. There was one question which I had missed earlier, which was about which is the best specialization in PGDM. So according to me, a PGDM course helps you also choose a certain area that you want to look at as your strength. So personally, the area of specialization that I would suggest, again, a lot depends on the school. I might tell you specialization in finance is good, but if tomorrow you find a school that has entrepreneurship as a specialization, or maybe you're in a different career pathland where you say, well, I want to learn more about HR before I start my company, then that's the right specialization to look at. So don't just look at obviously while making the choice of the school, look at the specialization, but there is no one best specialization to go to, because that depends. A lot of that depends on your career elements of where you are and what you see as factors that will help you decide on which specialization to take. So I hope that answers that question as well. We've got a couple of minutes. If there's any other last, we probably might be able to take one more question if there's anything. But if not, I'll be happy just to hear some comments to see has this session been helpful to you. For all the ones who are listening into this, it might be interesting to see, which will help us then decide if we want to do these more often going ahead as well. Okay, so quite a few responses flowing in saying that this was helpful. Brilliant. Okay. So with the idea of time at this stage, we're going to close the webinar, but I do wish you all the very best in your search. If you do have any questions, I'm happy for you to write to me on LinkedIn. You can find me by my name, or you can email me, which should be at paras@qs.com. So that's paras@qs.com, or you can write back to us at india@qs.com. I hope this helps you, and if there's anything we can help you further with, to get in touch. All the very best. Thank you very much. Hello. Hey, are we closed? Yeah.